Hello and thank you for joining us on France 24. It's time for us to cast our collective eye on Africa. First up, the headlines. The 39th African Union Summit came to an end on Sunday after 2 days dominated by the crises affecting the continent. The creation of a common platform of 18 countries on security issues was also announced. Student action continues in Senegal following the deadly protest against unpaid financial aid last week. They are also demanding answers on the circumstances of the death of Abdoulaye Ba, second-year med student of Cheikh Anta Diop University. And the African continent sees increasing representation with each edition of the Winter Olympics. This year, 14 athletes from 8 different countries are representing their nations at Milano Cortina, more than double the number recorded in Beijing in 2022. The 39th African Union Summit came to a close on Sunday after 2 days of intense discussions amongst heads of states focused on the continent's major crises. On the agenda, water management and protection, but also war. Delegates strategized on how to bring a ceasefire to the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo and Sudan, 2 conflicts which have had devastating humanitarian consequences. Our correspondent, Tom Canetti, was at this summit and reports from the Ethiopian capital.
That's a wrap for the 39th edition of the African Union Summit here in Addis Ababa. And while the official theme was centred around water and sanitation, it quickly became clear that security would take centre stage for the continent's leaders. The chairperson of the Commission of the African Union, Mahmoud Ali Yusuf, repeatedly condemned recent coups d'etats in Africa, notably in Madagascar and Guinea-Bissau. And the Commissioner of the Peace and Security Council of the African Union called for an immediate ceasefire in Sudan and in the east of the DRC, saying that the guns there must be silenced. He met with the president of the DRC, Felix Tshisekedi, who said that he is keen to organise an inter-Congolese dialogue which should take place in Kinshasa. Migration was also discussed in relation to both of these conflicts, and world leaders, leaders of Africa, of the continent, met on Sunday and promised more aid to the neighbouring countries of Sudan and the eastern DRC region. There have not been any numbers released regarding that increase in aid that will be directed to those areas, but that information is expected at the World Migration Conference, which will take place in Egypt in June.
28 people were killed in Sudan's North Kordofan region on Sunday following a drone attack on a crowded market outside the town of Sodari. According to human rights groups Emergency Lawyers, the attack occurred in a paramilitary-controlled area in the region. However, no indication as to who was responsible was given. Fighting between the Sudanese military and the paramilitary rapid support forces has moved to the North Kordofan area, with the RSF troops trying to encircle the regional capital, El Obeid, for months. Anger continues in Senegal, specifically in the city of St. Louis, as students take up the mantle of their peers in Dakar following the deadly protest against unpaid financial aid last week. Given the lack of government action and change, they believe pressure needs to be maintained, particularly after the closure of Cheikh Anta Diop University in Dakar last Tuesday. Many are appealing for more details, particularly surrounding the death of a young dental surgical student, Abdoulaye Ba. Our correspondent in Senegal, Caitlin Kelly, has more.
In Saint Louis on Monday, students staged a sit-in, taking up the mantle of their peers in Dakar who protested last week. They are asking for the unconditional and immediate release of the students who were arrested at the now-closed Cheikh Anta Diop University following clashes over unpaid stipends. They've also asked for the truth and justice when it comes to Abdoulaye Ba, a second-year medical student who was killed in the clashes, and the circumstances of that are still unknown. A source at the Ministry of Higher Education told France 24 that discussions are ongoing as to how to restore calm. But many describe the situation as a standoff between students and their government after very little progress last week. The government did admit to misconduct, but then accused the students of destroying university infrastructure. Over the past few months here in Senegal, there have been many demonstrations and discussions over these unpaid financial stipends, which many of the students rely on for their studies. The government have pledged an investigation into the demonstrations and also the death of Abdoulaye Ba. In Senegalese media over the past week, an autopsy has been circulating that shows trauma to the chest and the skull of the young boy. But the government says that its evidence that it possesses does not show any physical violence. Meanwhile, the student population wait for answers from their government.
Nigeria's foreign ministry is sounding the alarm over rising illegal recruitment of its citizens to fight in conflicts abroad, including in Russia's war in Ukraine. Kyiv estimates around 1,400 soldiers from 36 different African nations were currently fighting on the soil. According to Abuja, reports show that some Nigerians were enticed with promises of well-paid employment, educational opportunities, or even migration incentives, only to find themselves thrown into conflicts. Lou Osborne, member of Impact All Eyes on Wagner, explained to us how they ended up fighting for a foreign military.
We have identified several networks at different levels. So obviously there is one layer of recruitment which is directly managed from Russia, and we were even able to speak with the Russian recruiters who told us that actually his travel agency was not real and that it was a front for the Russian security services, the FSB, which was coordinating the main effort. Then we have identified a more national, local level, if you want, with travel agencies and recruitment agencies that are either just, opened and they are only focusing on Russia, or some are well established in the country and from time to time they advertise jobs or sometimes very directly to join the army and facilitate all the visa process for the people. And then we have identified two other categories. One is Russia is relying on, I would say, friend of Russia, so actors who have been very involved in the Russia-Africa cooperation, and influencers that are usually quite pro-Russian and are kind of advertising the benefit of living in Russia. And then we saw that some of the human trafficking network seem to be as well quite involved in the recruitment process. Most of the people who actually want to join, they join on, economic motivation because they are offered incredible high salaries, which are obviously not the reality. So they go because they think that they're going to have a better life, they're going to be able to provide for their family, to send back remittance in their country. So that's the main target. We spoke with some of the fighters. I would say that a very small minority is ideologically motivated, but most of the people are people who want, better living conditions. And we identify people who are really what we could call unskilled, so they don't have a specific education. But we saw as well that people with a very good education, medicine, people working in the oil and gas industry, people who are actually even already studying in Russia in quite good university are also kind of caught with that recruitment process.
And now let's take a look at some stories making the headlines across the continent. The French Interior Minister, Laurent Nunez, is in Algeria in a bid to improve bilateral relations between Paris and Algiers. The visit was widely awaited following the Algerian Interior Minister's invitation to his French counterpart months ago. On the agenda, the thwarting issue of French expulsion orders and the imprisonment of French journalist Christophe Glaise. The last visit by a French Interior Minister was in 2022 when Gérald Darmanin traveled there. At least a dozen people were killed on Saturday during an attack carried out by Jnim militants in Titao in northern Burkina Faso. According to Ghanaian authorities, 7 of its citizens, tomato traders, were among the victims. The assailants destroyed the town's military camp, telephone antennas and businesses. Titao is located around 50 kilometers from the city of Ouahigouya. At this time, Burkina Faso's military rulers have not confirmed an official death toll. Kenya's Jomo Kenyatta International Airport in Nairobi came to a standstill on Monday following a workers' strike which disrupted flights and air traffic control operations. The industrial action was announced last week by the Kenya Aviation Workers Union over pay increases, better working conditions and benefits. The airport is one of Kenya's key hubs and with significant national and international flights passing through. Meanwhile, Kenya Airways is warning passengers not to come to the airport without first confirming their flight status. Africa isn't generally associated with winter sports, but the continent has seen a constant and growing presence in the Winter Olympic Games since the 1960s. This year, 14 African athletes are currently competing in the Games. They hope their presence can encourage others to follow in their footsteps. Laurent Bertécher has the story.
They hail from Kenya, South Africa, Eritrea, Jamaica, Madagascar and Benin, and are all competing in the 2026 Winter Olympics. These 6 skiers were brought together by Henry Rivers, the founder of NBS, an organization that supports athletes of color and promotes inclusion in winter sports.
We identify, develop, and support athletes of color everywhere to elevate them to a status of elite athleticism. Without organizations like the NBS, we wouldn't be able to fund some of these athletes.
With only 14 athletes representing 8 African countries, skiers of color remain a minority in the competition. But Eritrean alpine skier Shannon Abeda says representation has come a long way since his first participation in the 2018 Winter Olympics.
Coming here and seeing more was great, and getting to know some of the athletes from the smaller nations, it makes me feel less alone. But I also wanted to emphasize that the support from the bigger nations has been incredible.
Others were competing for the first time and reveling in the moment, like 22-year-old Beninese alpine skier Nathan Chibozo.
For me, it's a very proud feeling to represent Benin. I'm very happy. It's the first time Benin is present at the Winter Olympics.
African athletes have yet to win a medal at the Winter Olympics, but for Henry Rivers, it's only a matter of time before one of them makes it onto the podium.
In Senegal, a beachside fitness club is helping people with reduced mobility regain strength and ease chronic pain. In the coastal village of Ngor, near Dakar, weekly aquagym sessions are turning the sand and sea into a space for rehabilitation. Clarisse Fortuné tells us more.
The beach in Ngor is usually a place for fishing and leisure. But every Saturday morning, it becomes a gym and for some, a place of recovery. People of all ages gather by the sea for aquagym sessions, designed to improve mobility and reduce pain. Some arrive in wheelchairs or make their way across the sand on crutches, helped by volunteer lifeguards from the local community. Exercises begin on the beach. For many, progress is slow but meaningful.
I had cervical osteoarthritis, and it paralyzed me. I was in a wheelchair, but after using a cervical collar, I came back to the gym in April. I came here on crutches, but now I feel better.
The second part of the session takes place in the sea, where water reduces pressure on joints. The classes cost just 300 African francs, about 50 euro cents, and are led by volunteer coaches. The small fees help cover basic equipment, alongside support from the city of Dakar.
I can tell you that 60% of members are referred by doctors. We work with the National Centre for Orthopaedic Equipment in Fan and with many doctors.
For participants, the group dynamic is just as important as the exercises themselves. Using the beach and sea as a natural therapy space, Club des Dauphins de Ngor hopes to help more people move and live a little better each week.
And Nigeria's Argungu Fishing Festival returned this weekend after a 6-year-long absence due to COVID, a lack of funding, and conflict in Kebbi State. The UNESCO-listed event drew tens of thousands of visitors over 4 days, culminating with a fishing competition in the Matan-Fada River. This year, the winning fisherman snagged a 59-kilo fish and the jackpot. That's all from us for the moment. Stay tuned to France 24. We'll be right back with more news.